Welcome to Spiritual as Fuck,
Spiritual as fuck.
where spirituality meets the real world. I'm Liz Volpe, social entrepreneur, psychic medium, teacher, and founder of the Intuition Academy. I am passionate about inspiring people to dream big and change the world.
I'm Dianne Driscoll, a coach, facilitator, keynote speaker, and self-directed healing practitioner. I am fascinated with all things science, spirituality, and self-leadership, and love the journey of incorporating my spiritual gifts into my life and business.
We share real and raw spiritual stories, give you a safe space to challenge what's normal and have some serious fun along the way. If the podcast isn't enough, we invite you to our monthly online events and workshops with some of the world's best spiritual teachers.
Plus, join our interactive community on Patreon with bonus episodes and lots of extra content. Everything you need to be spiritual as fuck. Today's guest is someone very close to my heart. My long-term spiritual mentor and teacher, Pauline Nguyen. Pauline was on my radar for many years before my spiritual awakening. I admired her from a distance as an incredible keynote speaker, often referencing her work to my emerging speaker clients. I always knew that I would work with Pauline, but could never have guessed that it would be in a spiritual context, not in a speaking context. They say that when the student is ready, the master appears. And so it was, amidst the confusion of my spiritual awakening, that I started to work with Pauline as my mentor and teacher. Over a 2.5-year period, I have been part of Pauline's Roundtable, Spiritual Accelerator, and Evolve group programs, as well as attending her life-changing Ziva retreats. I will never be able to put into words the transformative impact Pauline has had on my life, nor the gratitude that I feel for this incredible woman. Now, that's a tiny snippet of my experience with Pauline, but let me share a little bit about her background with you before we dive into today's episode. Pauline started her life escaping war-torn Vietnam, spending a year in a Thai refugee camp, then suffering tremendous physical and emotional abuse until she was a young woman. Pauline has risen from the ashes of her trauma to become one of Australia's most sought-after development coaches and spiritual teachers. Pauline has co-founded the world's most awarded Vietnamese restaurant, Red Lantern, and she is the author of award-winning, critically acclaimed books, The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur and Secrets of the Red Lantern. So without further ado, let's hear from the lady described by Huffington Post as the most grounded spiritual entrepreneur on the planet.
So today, we want to welcome a fearless disruptor to our show. She's actually the perfect guest for what we stand for with Spiritual as Fuck. So Pauline, welcome.
Thank you so much, Liz. Thank you so much, Dianne, for having me. It's great to see you again, Dianne. We've been working together for a number of years now.
Yes. It must be nearly 3. It's heading for 3.
And I think our listeners have heard your name mentioned so much anyway on this podcast. It's about bloody time we have you here.
Very good. And we're always in different countries and different time zones. So it's good to be able to be in sync and aligned.
Oh, absolutely. And we're excited to kind of tap into your wisdom today as the spiritual entrepreneur. And wow, I mean, you have an incredible story. Let me just start off by saying that. And during my research, I came across one of your podcasts, actually, that hit home so much with me that I was actually doing my makeup in the mirror in the morning when I listened to it. I actually stopped and said out loud, wow. So I have to just share this. And I'd love you to share this story. You were sharing a personal story of you being at a beautiful gala dinner. You were wearing a gorgeous dress. And a man came up to you and said, "Oh, I thought that you were all spiritual and shit." You know the story I'm talking about?
Yes, I was. I wear a number of hats. One of those hats is a keynote speaker. I speak on the world stage, and I was giving a keynote one day, and I'm wearing my keynote hat. Right? And so as a keynote speaker, we play a particular role. We all play roles. And afterwards, the keynote speakers are often invited to the gala dinner of the conference. And so this young gentleman had seen me wear my keynote hat within the role of keynote speaker. We have to tick a few boxes, but as at the gala dinner as the guest, I'm going to wear sexy clothes because I like wearing sexy clothes. I love beautiful fabrics. I love collecting things that I'm a sensation junkie. And I own Red Lantern, the most awarded Vietnamese restaurant in the world. We've been around for 22 years. I grew up working in restaurants. I'm a hospitality girl as well. So I love good food. I love fine wine. I love Negronis. And so it's all sensorial, right? And so I'm wearing a beautiful dress. I'm drinking alcohol. I'm eating this beautiful piece of meat. And I also swear a lot.
No.
And of course, I'm not going to swear on stage as the keynote speaker. And so I'm, having a good time, speaking to everyone. And this young man came up to me and he said, I thought you were all spiritual and shit. And I said, okay, so what made you think that? And what does that mean to you? And why are you approaching me to tell me this? What are your thoughts? And he goes, well, you're drinking alcohol, you're eating meat, you're wearing what you're wearing, and you're swearing. And I said, oh, okay. So you had already a preconceived expectation of what spiritual means for you. Where did that come from? And he started thinking, oh, well, where did that come from? Where did that cliche come from? And I had already presented in my keynote what spirituality means for me. It's to live your life in spirit and inspired. To ask yourself those very different questions every day. What do I need to do to feel the way I want to feel? Who do I need in my orbit to help me to get to where I want to go faster? What would love do? What would love do? And so I speak about spiritual entrepreneurship. There's the entrepreneurship side. We're not, spiritual hippies or monks sitting in a, monastery doing no thing. We've got to live life. And I said, so whose expectations were they, mate? And he said, they were mine. And I said, well, you take that back then.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. You take that expectation back then. And so if you're expecting a spiritual person in like, where are they? that's not me. that's not me. And so the spirituality that I teach has very much to do with authenticity, with speaking your truth, with not living a lie, with not betraying ourselves, and certainly not renouncing, because we are here not as these human beings to have this soul experience, to not honor. We are souls here to have this human experience, to really honor what it means to be in this human body that can touch and taste and feel and fuck and swear and succeed and fail and all of that. And that's what it means to be spiritual, to live your life truly in spirit and inspired. And so we hung out. He and I, we hung out for the rest of the time. And it was like, oh, I get it.
It's safe to say you had an impact on that young guy.
I think when we speak our truth, it's very easy to have impact on others, because we all need to be true. And the spirituality that I teach is certainly not love and light and peace, love and mung beans. I'm certainly not love and light. We can be dark, we can be mean, we can be generous, we can be kind, we can be bitchy, we can be withdrawn, we can be abundant. We are all of it. And that's what it means to be human, to be all of it, and not to be afraid to be all of it. And when we are all of it, when we're living our truth, the love, the light, the niceness, the generosity, that just comes really, really easily. That comes so easily because there's no dissonance. We're living our own dream. We're not living someone else's dream, but it's a continued process, right? It's a continued evolution of work.
These are all the things, Pauline, that absolutely drew me to you as being, my spiritual teacher. And particularly, like, you have been my guiding light going through from my awakening. And yeah, just so many, an in joke is duck slaps. So these are affectionate, slaps, waking us up to reality. We all need those shake up calls. But I do love it. It is your, let's call it brand of spirituality, but it is what spirituality means to you. And that's what this podcast is all about. Spiritual as fuck. It means we all have our innate way of expressing our spirituality. But I would love to know, because you have this, I guess, very opposing view to what a lot of people view as being the kind of love and light, or the monk sitting up on the hill sort of spirituality. What is it that kind of gets on your goat about that kind of almost like standardized, bland, wannabe spiritualist type energy that is out there? Like, what are some of the things that just get on your goat? You're thinking, okay, we need a bit of a wake-up call in the spiritual industry at the moment.
Can't wait for this answer.
If your definition of get on your goat is the same as my definition, it doesn't really get my goat. There's nothing that makes me go, oh my God, it's get the goat. I actually don't care. I don't care what you. It's not that I don't care. I don't mind. So if I could take the get on my goat and put that to the side, because the work is to not have that shit bother us, right? And so those things don't really get on my goat as much as there are things that I that hurt me a little bit, because I see that because of that mindset, because of that heart set, because of that spirit set that they are in, I see their operating systems, and I see that it is because of their operating systems, it is why they experience pain. And so it's deeper than get on my goat. So for me, get on my goat is, I find it annoying. That doesn't bother me as much as the next level of care. Being that, for example, this love and light, you're meant to be nice to everyone. And, heaven forbid you speak your truth. The part that pains me is that I know that is what causes them disease and dis-ease. That is what's making them sick. That is what's going to give them cancers and autoimmune disease, because it's not fucking love and light. People pleasers, the peacemakers, the ones who are got to be nice, they are the greatest manipulators. What are they manipulating? I must be nice. I have to suppress my truth. I'm manipulating the situation. I'm manipulating your thoughts. I'm manipulating your opinion of me, because I need to be liked. I need to be needed. And therefore, I'm not going to speak my truth. I'm going to suppress it, because please like me. Please do not. And then in my coaching, when I do experience or these people go on a journey with me, I simply have to say something like, well, can you be okay that people don't like you? And I can see it physically hurt them. It's like, because if you continue to think that everyone has to like you and this need to be needed, you're actually going against one of the greatest laws of nature, the greatest laws of the universe, in that there are always going to be supporters and there are always going to be challenges. And so if you're going to live your life in expectation, in this drive and this manipulation for everyone to support you, to love you, to need you, and no one to dislike you, you are actually defying or going against one of the greatest laws of nature. Because whether it be 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, there will always be supporters and there will always be challenges. And so another question I get asked a lot is before I go on stage, or before I'm given a podcast or anything, it's like, aren't you afraid that people aren't going to like you? Or aren't you? It's like, well, first of all, I would be afraid if I didn't know my shit. I would be afraid if I didn't know what the hell I'm talking about. But if I'm an expert at what I do, I know absolutely the message I'm going to deliver. I'm a master on stage. There is nothing to be afraid of, because I know that in the audience, that percentage, 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, whatever it is, there are going to be supporters and there are going to be challenges. Why? Because it is the law of the universe. It is one of the greatest laws. And so when I know that, I am free. I am free to be me. I am free to be my truth. I am free to be my authentic self. And so back to your question, Dianne, it's that's one of the biggest pieces that causes me pain, when people think that spirituality is love and light and peace and love and all this stuff. And, don't rock the boat. Don't cause any ripples. It's like, we're meant to cause ripples. We're meant to poke people. How else will people evolve? How else will we say, oh, maybe I need to change my view a bit. Maybe I need to open my aperture a bit. Hey, maybe I need to adopt more perspectives, because this very narrow view, this very mono perspective I have is actually causing me pain. And so in my experience, the more perspectives we can hold, the more free we will become. And so that's one of the things that gets my goat, kind of, sort of, but not really, but deeper.
Oh,
The
wow.
layers.
I have to ask at that point, that I'm sure that there are listeners right now that are going, shit, that's me, that I'm in that pain. I'm scared to be my true authentic self. How do you coach someone, or what advice would you have for someone that has just identified that they are really fucking scared?
Yeah, I'm loath to give advice on public platforms. I can give options. Everyone's situation is different. And one thing I always love to say is everything in context. Everything in context. And so I would encourage your listeners, when anything that I say, it's not advice. It is merely an offering for you to also put in your context. And so the first thing would be to ask questions, of how's it been working for you first? How's it been working for you? And if I may offer then, that everything starts with a firm decision. Never underestimate the power of a decision. And so if you want to walk down this road, you have to make the decision that you're going to be willing to walk down the very long haul of mirrors. And the long haul of mirrors is not painless. It can hurt. It can hurt, because we're looking in the mirror and we're questioning the way we've done things. We're questioning our beliefs. We're questioning now, hey, where did that come from? Ask yourself, where did it come from? Oh my God, my parents dumped it on me. Okay, now you have a choice. Do you have a choice to say, my parents actually didn't know any better? Or my parents were fuckers? Or my parents perhaps can learn now? And so where did it come from? But then the next part is permission. You have to give yourself permission. You have to give your coach, you have to give your mentor permission. Permission for what? Permission to let go. Permission to upset people who had always taken advantage of you. Permission to now really declare your boundaries. Permission to continue to evolve and ask these very pertinent questions. But I think the decision I'm now going to eventually have to let go of my old self. And it's not going to be easy, because there's a lot of mourning, as in mourning. There's going to be a lot of mourning and grief as you let go of the old you. But, in my experience, it's always so much more beautiful on the other side. It's hard at first, it's messy in the middle, but it's so beautiful on the other side. And so the other questions I would also ask is, did you know that the statistics are those who are the people pleasers, those who are the, love and light, I have to be nice to everyone, I can't rock the boat, I can't speak my truth. The statistics are, in your 50s, in your 60s, you guys are the ones who are going to get cancers. You guys are the ones who are going to get autoimmune disease. You guys are because everything that has been suppressed has to be made manifest. You guys are going to be the ones who get organ failure. And so, and especially aged the most as well. Judgment ages someone the most. Judgment for self, judgment for others. And so the other offer I would like to offer is, how do you want to be around for your kids? Do you want to be around for your lovers? Do you want to be around for the people who care about you? And so rather than giving advice, I would like to just ask questions and trigger different perspectives. And so it's we can look to the future more so than beat ourselves up for the past. I know I want to be around for my kids. I know I want to be as powerful and impactful and live my truth as much as possible, because isn't that why we are here? Isn't that why we're here?
Absolutely. Pauline, so I just want to give some personal context to what you're saying, because obviously you're saying like this is not a live coaching session. You're not giving advice directly, but my work with you and letting go of this identity that I had with having mental illness and, long-term mental illness, it was working with you that I let go of that story that I was telling myself. And it was offering these different perspectives, letting that go. And if we carry those things around with us, then we're not able to be that fullest expression of ourselves that we want to be. So I know that was a huge pivotal moment for me in my mental health journey, but it was almost the tipping point of where I went from a mental health journey into a spiritual journey. So it was massive tipping point. And since then, I no longer consider myself to have mental illness. Like, I don't identify in that way anymore. But I would love to ask you about your journey, like throughout your life, and where was a pivotal moment for you on your spiritual journey that really this was bring you back to kind of the earliest times of what were some of the things that happened to you that was, okay, I'm changing my perspective, I'm changing my view of the world, I'm becoming more spiritual. Is there something you can share with us there that impacted you?
I think all of us are spiritual. We have a spirit. We have a soul. All of us do. And we can go on about conspiracy theories and all that stuff. And you know that I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do know that a lot of cultures encourage us or have indoctrinated us to not even remember or not even think that we all have spirit, because it is so powerful. When you are in spirit and inspired, you may go against the authorities. Holy shit. You may go against your parents. You may go against all these people who have dumped on you untruths that are not you. And so I think we all have our spirit. We all have our spirit. So it's not so much that when did I become spiritual? I was always spiritual. It is that I was able to harness that power. And would you not agree that that's what this journey has been, Dianne, to harness the power? To really,
absolutely,
to really amplify the power. I just had a thought that you were so excited about this launching this podcast during our work together. You go, spiritual stuff. Like, why not? Why the hell not? Why the hell not? Good on you. Good on you. Look, a bit of my origin story. I am a refugee from Vietnam. After the war, my father built a boat and he smuggled my brother and myself. My brother Lewis was 2, I was 3. So my mum, my dad, us, and 3 other families. The kids and the wives were hidden below deck and the men posed as fishermen. And we escaped just after the war. Otherwise, my father would have been caught and put into the re-education camps where they brainwashed the soldiers. And he was determined that if we died, we'd all die together. And so we spent 9 days out at sea and ended up in Thailand in a refugee camp there. We were only meant to spend a few months there, but we spent a whole year there. It's where my brother Luke was born. My brother Luke is now a world famous chef with a whole lot of television shows and cookbooks. And
wow.
He also is the face of Vietnam Air these days. One of the most syndicated chefs in the world. And so we ended up in the refugee camp and was accepted to come to Australia in 1978. And life was hard. We grew up in housing commission. My father suffered terribly from PTSD because of the horrors of the war. And then coming to a new country with absolutely nothing, no house, no job, no money. And we lived in Westbridge Migrant Hostel for some time. And then my father got a job working in the Sunbeam factory in Campsie. And he worked the graveyard shift from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. And he worked all the shifts that nobody wanted. And so you can imagine there was a lot of pressure coming here. And my mother had tuberculosis as well. So she was really, really sick. And my brother and I, we were so young. And my father, there was not much known those days about PTSD. And so he had all this anger in him, this anger and this violence, and he had nowhere to dump it. So he dumped it on us kids and on my mother. And growing up was very, very violent. I know what fear smells like. I know what fear smells like. It wasn't only the physical abuse, the things like punches to the face. When the boy started to like me, he'd cut all my hair off or really lower my school hem to, my ankles so that the boys wouldn't be attracted to me. And so it was also the emotional, the mental and the spiritual abuse. We worked in our family restaurant. I started working at the age of 7. He also had a ice cream parlor, a video library, a cafe, a restaurant.
The entrepreneurial spirit was
well.
born.
Yeah. And he also had a driving school on the side, right? And us kids provided the child labor. So I learned a ferocious work ethic as a young girl, and a whole lot of resilience and grit as well. But so emotionally, spiritually, we were a mess. Physically and mentally, we were strong. Emotionally and spiritually, we were a mess. And so I ran away from home. I just couldn't handle the violence anymore. And I'd say to my God, this can't be my life. This cannot be my life. And so I ran away from home when I was 16, 17, and I spent many years hiding from my father. And I put myself through university. I didn't come this far just to come this far, right? And so I put myself through university. I worked in some of the most prestigious restaurants under the tutelage of some amazing chefs and sommeliers. And I mastered those skills. I mastered flavor. I mastered service. I mastered hospitality. And so I did that to pay for myself through university as well as support myself. And during this time, there was a lot of partying going on, a lot of drugs, a lot of partying, as you do, as you've run away from home, now at university,
the rebel,
hanging out with all these kind of rich and influential people, and I played a lot. I mucked around a lot. I was a very, very naughty young adult, and I started hanging out with some very wealthy, influential people who were deeply, deeply unhappy. And that started my journey because, wait a minute, you guys are rich. You have no right to be unhappy. We're refugees. We came here with nothing. We live in housing commission. Like, we were beaten. We have a right to be unhappy. You don't have a right to be unhappy. And that was the start of my inquiry, of my self-interrogation, of going, wait a minute, how are these things so different? How can they coexist? And so that was my deep inquiry and interrogation of self, of everything around me. And it wasn't until later, Dianne, that when I decided to have children, when I decided to become a mother, that the eyes, that the focus, that the spotlight really became eyes in. And so it was that point of all this curiosity of how does this make sense? It was eyes out, eyes out, eyes out. And then when I decided to become a mother, I took all of that and put it eyes in. Okay, this needs to change. this needs to change. And so I hope that answered your question on where it all started.
I love that because like Liz and I guess we asked this question in varied ways to our guests who come on, because we're always fascinated by what are some of those pivotal moments in our lives that just cause us to shift gears, that changes the trajectory of our lives. And it is different for different people. Some people, a gift comes online. For you, it was very much the profoundness of looking at these complete extremes in life and saying, how can unhappiness, occur on both ends of the spectrum? And then where do you find happiness? And I know that Liz and I, when we were doing our research, and obviously, like I know you in a different capacity than some of our listeners may, but still, for me, you still do your research. You look at, okay, well, what does the outward world know about you? And you touched on a lot of it there with entrepreneurship, like just your dad, your family, the fact that you and your brothers are working in restaurants from a very young age, and that, that ferocious work ethic. Mm. When you, what fascinates me about your work is that you are such huge credibility, as a speaker, as a, restaurateur, as, your Tiger Purrr, the amount of things that you have out in the world that you are known for. And it's almost like that take no shit attitude that here I am in all my glory. But then the perceived spiritual side. So, to stand up on stage to a corporate audience and have a spiritual theme and thread through the messages that you're given. So I would love to know, how do you straddle both of those worlds, like the entrepreneur side, the standing up in front of a corporate audience, and then also your deeply personal brand of spirituality? How do you balance that? How do you bring that to life?
Dianne, I had a little bit of a giggle when you said the listeners don't know me as you do, because when you're in my orbit, you get to see a very,
very different,
a very different Pauline. It's like the rabbit hole goes deep. We're talking quantum healing. We're talking, shamanic. We're talking a whole lot of. So that's a, and so. One way I would like to answer that question, Dianne, is how do I straddle it? How do I straddle it, being that I always understand there is a window of tolerance. There's a window of tolerance with your audience. There's a window of tolerance with the clients who book me as a keynote speaker. Everyone has a window of tolerance, and we have to respect that. We have to respect that. And so, as you know me, we meet every Monday. I go into shamanic healing. We see miracles. We see people, saving themselves from suicide, people healing from cancer, organ failure, people having better sex, people looking more hot and sexy. The rabbit hole goes deep, but I can't be on stage telling people about that because the window of tolerance. Because of the window of tolerance. And so I understand when I first started my professional speaking career some 15 years ago, I guess, I was told by my agents at the time, I wouldn't call myself the spiritual entrepreneur if I were you. People are afraid of that word. Yes. And I said, I understand, but I play in other dimensions as well. I don't just have, play in the third dimension, or I have one foot in the third dimension and I play another I know exactly where the collective consciousness is going. Yeah. And so I understand, and I understand that that people are afraid of that word, but they're not going to be afraid of this word forever, because it's our truth. We all have spirit. We all are spirited. And spirituality has nothing to do with religion. I think that it's religion that needs spirituality. Spirituality doesn't need religion. What spirituality really is, it's physics that has yet to be explained. Physics that has yet to be explained. But, it's okay. Well, I know where the collective consciousness is going. And, it wasn't long until I was the most booked female speaker in Australia. And so when I'm on stage, I realized then that it's not that people are ready. It's that they're craving it. They're craving
yes, absolutely.
Because it's triggering their heart. It's triggering something within them, and it's their truth. It's their truth. And so we have to understand the window of tolerance. It's like what another word or another metaphor would be the Trojan horse.
Yes.
You know, you think you're coming into my world to talk about entrepreneurship and spirituality. That's definitely my niche, because, you know, entrepreneurs, we change the game. We change the game for a lot of people. You know, you're an entrepreneur when you cannot be an entrepreneur. And I've seen so many entrepreneurs and business people in pain and sick and because they've done things the old way. Anyway, back to the speakership. Fast forward a couple of years, now everyone's talking about meditation and mindfulness.
Yeah, exactly.
It's become a genre. As I told you.
And they're looking for the next level, and the next level they want to be challenged a little bit more.
Yeah. And so I love the word mastery. I love the word mastery, and mastery is not an end. Mastery continues. The masters continue the mastery. And so if I'm going to have a restaurant, I want it to be the most awarded Vietnamese restaurant in the world. If I'm going to write a couple of books, every book's got to win an award. If I'm going to be a keynote speaker, I want to be one of the best keynote speakers in the world. And it's the process. The process is the prize. The journey is not the prize. The process, who you become, the things that you learn, the skills that you learn, and so it becomes. This is my career. This here is my career, right? This instrument of consciousness here is my career. And so, what other skills can I master? Because we're not here to be dabblers, right? We're not here to be dabblers. And whether we reach that thing or not, who we've become, man, that's so much more delicious and juicy, right? So we are here on this earth to do three things. First is evolve. We're here to evolve. Come on, evolve already. Don't stay still. You owe it to life. We owe it to life. We owe it to life. And then we're here to push our humanity forward. And that's when the spirit comes in, right? Because we're not just doing it to earn money. We're doing it to push our species forward. We're doing it to push our humanity forward. Then something within us ignites. And we're not afraid to cry and hurt and bleed for it because there's something bigger than us. And so we're here to evolve, push humanity forward. And the third we always forget is to do it with joy. Do it with joy. Eat that delicious food, drink that delicious wine, have that amazing sex, wear those sexy clothes, you know, whatever brings you joy. We're here to evolve, push humanity forward, and do it with joy. And when we get to that point, it isn't it's no longer hard, Dianne. And so, and you know my three favorite questions, right? What do I need to do to feel the way I want to feel? What do I need to do? And then who do I need in my orbit to help me to get to where I want to go faster? And so I didn't win those 2 book awards doing it myself. I didn't have all those awards in the restaurant doing it myself. I didn't, launch this delicious Tiger Purrr Chai to do it myself. Who do I need in my orbit to help me to get to where I want to go faster? And then, of course, all the other things come online, such as you need to be attractive. I mean, looks helps, right? But what words do you speak? What energy do you emit? What thoughts do you think? What good deeds will you do to attract the experts, to attract the people in your orbit to help you to get to where you want to go faster? And then we create one big energy field, one big vortex. And then we get to achieve our goals faster with more quality and a lot more fun. A lot more fun. And guys, while we're doing it, while we're having experiencing joy as well, this state of perpetual silliness, the higher you vibrate, the higher your frequency, it's much more fun. And what happens then? Your magnetic field, your attractive field expands and expands, and then you start magnetizing more people, magnetizing more opportunities, magnetizing more of what you want in life. And so there's a science behind that, right? And that's what I mean by spirituality is physics that has yet to be explained. And so all those things that you mentioned are all true, but that's because of those 3 questions. What do I need to do to feel the way I want to feel? Why? So that I can keep my vibration high. Who do I need in my orbit to help me to get to where I want to go faster? Why? Because it's boring doing it myself, right? And also there are things that I don't want to do, And then the third one, what would love do? What would love do? First and foremost, what would self-love do? and then it snowballs from there, doesn't it? And then there's so many versions of love. Love is a verb. Love is a verb.
Oh, well, that is so powerful. I could actually sit and listen to you just talk. I know why you're so good at keynotes. I've already learned so much. I'm interested to know, and I've got so many questions buzzing around, but if we were to take a look into the life of Pauline just in one day, what spiritual kind of daily activities do you do to kind of continue to operate on a high vibration, as well as, having the people around you? Are there things that are practical things that you do that make a difference?
Oh, absolutely. There are some absolute non-negotiables that I do on a day-to-day. I look at the sunrise as many mornings as I can. I used to live near the ocean, and I would go out to watch the sun rise. I now live away from the ocean, but on my balcony, it's set so that I can have my cup of tea, cup of coffee, and watch the sun rise. So I watch it so that my eyeballs can feel the sun, the morning sun. I'm activating my mitochondria, boosting my healing. It's the most potent healing time of the day. We want to do that. We want to get sunlight in our eyes. We want to get the morning sun on our skin to build up our solar callus. It sets our circadian rhythm. When we do that, when we can build our solar callus, it's purposeful so that we can really get sick. We rarely get sick. And so this is kind of a ninja way to stay vital, because we heal very quickly. Basically, if I get sick, I don't get to do what I want to do. I'm bedridden, right? I don't get to earn money. I don't get to do these things. I don't get to speak on. I don't get to do all these things, right? And so that's one of the most potent ways to keep ourselves vital. Mother Earth and Father Sun have looked after us for eons. We are wirelessly connected to the sun. We are hardwired to the earth. And so when I walk my dog, when I'm going out, I don't live very far from Centennial Park. My feet are on the grass. My feet are on the soil. I garden. My hands are in the earth. Again, what does this do? It grounds us, allows us to, for me anyway, I sit in front of the computer almost all day. I'm on my phone all day. While I don't have artificial lights in my home, I'm surrounded by artificial EMFs, right? And so the sunlight in my eyes, my feet on the ground, my hand in the soil, jumping in the ocean, they're ninja ways to neutralize the harmful EMFs. And it doesn't take long, we leverage it and we maximize the time. And so when we're in front of the computer and it's like, oh, okay, I'm just feeling a little bit antsy. All right, I know I need to go out and sit in the sun with the sun on my skin. I need to now put my feet on the ground, and that gets me back in centered to continue to do what I do, whether it be quantum healing, whether it be being centered here to be able to speak my truth, whether it be to speak to my lover or my children. And so those are and so far everything's free.
Yes. A little bit of time.
That's right. So everything's free. And Liz, one thing that I do throughout my day, and I joke to the people who know me well, one of my favorite things to do is lie down. Lie down. Rest. But because it's I go into deep rest. Rest is a weapon. Rest is not a nice to have, a should have, a could have. It's a weapon. It makes me more articulate. I type faster. I think more clearly. I speak more articulately. Rest is a weapon. But in my process of rest, and it's some of the processes that I teach, I am in absolute yoga nidra. Actually, there's meditations on my website that are very, very powerful. But why am I? Thank you. Why am I in deep rest? Because now I'm doing the somatic the somatic heart work, somatic breath work, to dispel the dissonance, to dispel any micro tension, to dispel any, anxiety or other thought that is going to affect my electromagnetic signature. And so it's like part of my manifestation process. It's not all about, thinking. It's not all about the head. It's also about how I'm going to amplify my magnet, this magnet here. And I will lay down and go into whether it could be 15, 20, or maybe 30 minutes to train my body, to be that magnet.
Wow, I love that.
And then, of course, one other thing that I am very diligent on is I know that I am more powerful with my healing work, with my teaching work, with presenting or speaking in the mornings. And so, if anyone requires anything of me after 4 p.m., 5 p.m., I won't do it, because I know my output time and I know my input time.
So important. I have to ask one sneaky question. Sorry, Dianne. You mentioned quantum healing during.
Yes.
I would love to know, what is quantum healing?
Quantum is such a interesting topic for a lot of people. For myself, it is to go inward, and it's a very difficult concept to explain on a podcast. What I do with the healing work is part ancient modalities with present time concepts, as well as a whole lot of how can I say? People would call it woo-woo work.
Yeah.
I call it juju work, right?
Okay.
And so a lot of it I do is shamanic healing as well. When I'm coaching one-on-one, I have spent a number of years now creating my medicine room in the quantum field.
Oh,
And it's a very elaborate medicine room with a whole lot of different modalities within it as well. And I take their spirit and my spirit into my medicine room in the quantum, and we can do some amazing work when we play in the energy healing field, right? It's so much faster than what we can do with the allopathic medicine. And so if I could put it down into a few simple words, again, the window of tolerance, but I dare say many of your listeners are, spiritual as fuck already. So my spirit speaks to their spirit. And when I go into shamanic healing, for me, shamanism is a way of life. It's how I live my life. And how I'm able to assist is through sound as well as nature's medicine. And so if you love nature and you love sound and music and you resonate, we all have a little shaman inside of us. And so with my shamanic healing, we all set our intentions. And what sound do I use? I use predominantly the sound of my drum, because it mimics the heartbeat. It mimics your heartbeat, and especially my voice. I have particular scripts that I write for particular results that I need, or I might just let out some sounds that come from within, even though there is no words or any harmony, perhaps it's still song. And whatever sound comes out may trigger a code, or may trigger an experience, or may trigger some sort of a memory in my client. And so what's the power behind the sound of the voice versus an instrument or a piece of music? The voice carries consciousness, and it is so powerful. And this is how we get results so fast. So we not only play in the semantic, the being trained in masters in NLP and human behavior and psychology and all of that has to come in online as well. But of course, the somatic of the body, of the body. And so through the breath, through the movement work, through Qigong work, through meditation, through EFT, or we can't forget the body. It has to be of the body. And then the quantum work is the soulmatic work of the soul. But my quantum work is shamanic, ancient shamanic modalities. And so when we combine the somatic, the somatic, as well as the soulmatic, results can happen very, very fast, because I believe that talk therapy alone takes too long. And I have numerous clients who've had psychotherapy for so many years, and then they do a few sessions with myself, and they're like, "Oh, holy shit! I spent so many years in psychotherapy, and now I've because we're activating possibility, and that's what working in the quantum opens us up to, a whole field of potential, a whole field of possibility, and so." In the shamanic activations, I'm speaking words, I'm using my voice to activate codes. And then, of course, it's up to the client. It's up to them on how they take it, how they interpret it, what meaning it has for them. But in my experience, the results are mostly so joyous. So joyous. Why? Because they've already made the decision, and they've already given me permission, as well as themselves permission. But what does the drum and the voice also do? It shuts down the left brain so that we can access our right brain. And so the shamanic work, the quantum work, we're dealing with the terrain being the person's mindset, their beliefs, their emotions. And when we get to clean that out or level it out, what we're offering is another perspective. We're offering another terrain, which is a beautiful template, a beautiful canvas for them to start rebuilding and redesigning. And what more beautiful way to do that than to know thyself, especially with nature as well as sound. And so it really is so beautiful in so many ways. But it's not love and light softly. It's walking down a very long hall of mirrors.
Definitely not.
And that's not something that too many people can do. Hey.
Yeah. It
I hope
takes a
that
lot
answered
of
your question. I kind of went on.
It did.
If I can just jump in on that to say that it's actually something to be experienced, because there's only so much that you can say on a podcast, and if I can speak for the Pauline's group, Evolve group that I'm part of, it's we interpret things in different ways. So like, what is quantum? And it's like we might each have different interpretations of what Pauline is trying to put across to us. But we still have, there's sense making that we have to do. Each of us have to, and we're on different, stages of our journey, but there's no doubt about it. Like coming together on a, weekly basis, having those activations, through breath, through sound, through your guidance, Pauline, like, I mean, that is profound. And then each of us go through the journey on our own way, but it is the permission. It's like we choose to be there. We show up, we're there in support of each other. It's a collective energy as well, which is fantastic. But I know for me, I don't know that I could explain what Pauline is explaining, but then I don't work on that level either. But it's still a case of it is available there for everyone to tap into. And if it is something that you're being drawn to, find ways. So like, again, Pauline, your Ziva program that I was on as well, it's, go off, do a retreat, do something where you are absolutely throwing yourselves into these things, because be curious, find out about this. If your soul is being drawn in some way to it, then, whether it is the shamanism, whether it is, finding that teacher or mentor, for me, that's the stuff that lights me up. It's like you can only learn and experience so much on your own. We all need teachers, we all need guides, we all need mentors. And Pauline, on that, I'd love to ask you about is your teachers, guides, and mentors throughout your journey of life, because I know you do invest in yourself as well. Is there anything that you would like to share with us about, investing in yourself, about continually looking for that next level of a guide, next level of a mentor, that you're always, being that eternal student?
I think for me, I don't want to fuck around. I don't want to dabble. And I'm certainly not going to learn from a teacher who has not walked the walk.
Mm.
I'm not going to learn from some life coach who's 25 and has had no life experience and has bought a $7 NLP course for the weekend.
Yes.
You know,
Oh,
and
God.
so be discerning with your teachers. Research whether or not they've walked the walk. And so, you know, I have the awards, the rewards. I've got so many stories, and I've also got the battle scars to prove it. Does your coach mentor have the battle scars? Do they have enough experience to be able to speak from context, to be able to speak from wisdom? Wisdom is that you fucking lived it. You've lived it. And on the subject of, you know, talking about quantum before, a lot of people are afraid of the word, but if I could say, be open to the possibility. Be open to the possibility versus having such a closed mind. The quantum field is a field of energy and information that exists beyond space and time. Come on, there's got to be more than just this third dimension. Come on, you know, but let's not forget how important this 3D world is as well, because we have to take action in this 3D world. But just because you can't see it, it doesn't mean it is not real. Just because you don't believe it yet, it does not mean it is not true. And so once you are actually open to do things very differently, you're going to ask yourself a very different question. Wait a minute, if I've experienced this and this is actually so, how then can I reorganize my life so that I can benefit from this very new powerful worldview? The more perspectives we can hold, the more free we will become. So all I ask is to be open to the opportunity, be open to the possibility. And while you're open to learn from new teachers, make sure they've walked the walk. I think that's very, very important to discern, to absolutely discern. And so my teachers are old and wise and also not of this world.
Yes.
Love that.
You can't leave us hanging on that. Can you bring us a little bit deeper on that one?
One of my teachers who I've had for, you know, over 10 years now is an entity called Renon. He's a very charismatic energy. And what have I learned from him? I've learned many of my concepts. I've learned numerous keynote topics that you can't YouTube because they came from Renon. And so Renon is an entity from another dimension. He is Andromedan. He's from Andromeda. And when he comes to Earth, he possesses the daughter, his daughter from her name's Renacy, and she's his daughter by DNA. So and she's, you know, beautiful blonde haired, and she has a very sweet persona when Renon hasn't possessed her body. And when he has possessed her body, she becomes almost like a charismatic Sean Connery, and that's Renon's character, you know. And so we go and we visit Renon, and we wherever he is, and we listen to his teachings, and his energy is very, very big and very powerful. And if you're not used to it, you have to fight sleep, right? Because there's so much energy in the room. And that this is different to channeling. Channeling is the human is still the conduit, right?
Yes.
The conduit. And so it can be open to interpretation and the human's flavor. But in this case, Renacy actually leaves her body and she goes and astral projects, and Renon overtakes her body for however many hours he wants to teach. So he is one of my teachers.
My goodness.
I am
didn't
so
expect that.
glad.
I'm thinking, imagine I went on and told that on stage. Window of tolerance.
Exactly.
Window of tolerance. Yeah.
This is
But
why
this
I
podcast
love
is called Spiritual as Fuck. So,
Exactly. Anything goes here.
I love that we got into that, because even, like, you browse through Pauline's website, you're not likely to see that information. At the end of the day, it's going to be things, but it's when you dig into it, when you work closely, then you find out, the multiple layers on this. Pauline, I just want to say, one of the things that I absolutely love about you, and which magnetized me to working with you, is that you are just so unapologetically you. You are so truly authentic, that grit and grace embodied.
Thank you.
And I just would love if you can share with our listeners some pearls of wisdom on that, because it's tough. It's hard to claim yourself, to be sovereign, to actually stand out and, have the conviction and the courage to claim and show up every day to be who you truly are. Is there anything that you would offer as, guidance, a pearl of wisdom, something that you've learned through your own experiences that you'd like to share with our listeners to just help them on their path as they, navigate this thing called life?
Well, what does it mean to be sovereign? What does it mean to be sovereign? It's the idea that there is no power or authority outside of you. There is no power or authority outside of you required to live your own independent life. And so let me just repeat that. To be self-sovereign, to be sovereign is the idea that there is no power outside of you, no power, no authority outside of you that is required to live your own independent life. Wait a minute, I can create my own reality? I don't have to rely on anyone? Oh, but you know what? That also means I have to take full responsibility for my actions. Can you do that? Are you going to continue playing the blame game, the shame game, the low aim game? No, I'm going to take responsibility, have absolute acceptance to where I am now. Everything that you are now, everything that you're in now, you are absolutely responsible for how you see your reality. That's that piece in itself is very difficult, because most people would rather blame someone, blame the economy, blame the parents, blame their lover, blame their husband. Because once you take absolute radical personal responsibility, then that's what sovereignty is about. And then you can show up level yourself again and again and again in this game called life. What does it mean to be sovereign? What does it mean to have power? It means I'm going to no longer betray myself. I'm going to no longer betray myself. I'm no longer going to lie to myself. I'm going to continually check in, tune into my body. Is there dissonance in this decision? Am I doing it because I'm afraid I'm going to hurt their feelings? What's more important, being nice or being kind? I would rather be kind. I don't need you to see me as nice, but I'm fucking kind. I have the courage to be disliked. I'm going to be okay that you're not okay for now. You know why? Because I love myself too much to make myself sick, to give myself all these diseases and diseases later on. My children are watching me. My students are watching me. My clients are watching me. But when that happens, when we live our truth like that, it's no longer an effort. And so when you say, Dianne, I show up unapologetically myself, it's not even me getting up going, I'm going to be unapologetically myself today. It takes no effort. It simply is. It takes effort when you're living the lie. That's why you're tired. That's why you're aging, because you're living a lie. You're living someone else's dream. It's not your dream. Perhaps you're not even aware of what developmental stage you're at. Perhaps you don't have the teachers and the mentors. You don't understand that you are of a particular soul age. And then that's the work. That's the exciting part. What? Wait a minute. You mean there's actually nothing wrong with me? It's that I need to change particular patterns. I need to change particular behaviors. I might need to learn some new skills. Oh, I can do that. Can you help me? And it's like, it's a whole different like just moving a little bit this way, look this way. And that's what a good coach and mentor does, right? They show you the blind spots. And that's why they're called blind spots, because you can't see them. You know? and so it's this it when we're living our truth, it takes no effort. It simply is. It simply is. It's not even a considerate. It just is. And I think you know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah, it's the journey to get there that I think is challenging. It's the letting go, the deconditioning, the getting over the beliefs and things like that. But when you arrive there, and I'm definitely not saying I'm there yet, but it is the journey. As you do that, it becomes less and less. There's less effort involved to show up in that way. I love that, and I am sure that for so many of our listeners, that is going to be so helpful. And I will even say it's a good reminder for me as well, P. So you're always teaching.
I feel like we all need Pauline in our lives.
Oh, I'm telling you, you can sing it.
Honestly, I feel like we've not even scratched the surface of the wisdom that you have. And, you know, just get that sense of how rich your life has been with so many different experiences. It's just been honestly incredible to have you on the show, Pauline. Thank you so much.
It's my absolute pleasure. And because of the work that I do, I've been busy. It'll soon be released, my course Numinous, so that I can reach more people, because there's only so many hours this human being can deliver, right? And so it's taking a lot of the work that I've been teaching for years and years and years, and putting it out there to the world in an evergreen, I guess, an evergreen platform. But there's always going to be me as well. So when I do launch Numinous, it's not going to be some course that you can play at any time. It is in a collaboration and in a dance with myself, also as in the live flesh and blood person. So that's my next exciting project.
Well, we will definitely be adding every link possible on where everyone can find you in our show notes. So thank you so much, Pauline. And I really feel like there's going to be so many listeners that really need you as well in their life and are going to want to be on that course and that program. So yeah, thank you so much.
It's fun. We always have a lot of fun.
It sounds like it, absolutely. And yeah, thank you so much again. It's been an absolute pleasure, and keep doing what you do in the world, because I think you're having such an incredible impact.
Thank you so much, Liz. It was lovely to meet you at last. Dianne, I love you. I love you. I love you. Congratulations on your podcast, and congratulations and the acknowledgement for you guys to be creating a podcast of this nature and calling it Spiritual as Fuck. Because why the fuck wouldn't you?
Exactly. Thank you again.
That's it for another episode. Thank you for listening.
If you're looking for a place to feel at home and want to level up your spiritual game, head to our website, spiritualaf.co, and check out our upcoming online events and for information on how to join our Patreon community.
Plus, leave us a 5-star review with an awesome comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we're going to send you a free ticket to one of our Supercharged session events.
Until next time, stay spiritual as fuck.